Greetings, family. Greetings, and welcome to the Art of Rising. You know, we're all about giving you the codes to life and rising your energy, rising your consciousness. And we have some wonderful guests, and we've been like super hot lately. And I just happened to come across this incredible person. Her bio is like spectacular. So, yeah, thank you for tapping in, and I'll just bring her on and have you introduce yourself, sister. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you.
So
Happy to be
please
here.
introduce yourself and tell us where you live in and what are you doing these days?
So my name is Sophia Elan. Right now I'm in Turkey. Actually, I can see that the sun's kind of streaming in from behind. You can't block the sun, nor do we want to. And I'm formerly a corporate lawyer, but for the past several years, I've been an author, mainly focused on holistic wellness. I also wrote an uplifting memoir about overcoming a history of traumatic events. And I'm also working on a novel series, a Mediterranean-based novel series. It's based on my life. It's kind of like an Eat, Pray, Love meets The Graduate. More engaging, entertaining, exposing people to a lot of different cultures, Mediterranean countries, different lifestyles, different philosophies, different artistic movements. So that's the thing that I really enjoy working on the most. I'm actually working on a screenplay from the debut novel of that series, Sicilian Seductions. And I'm also working on coaching, basically stress management and resilience and heart coherence.
That's amazing. That's a long resume and there's so much
Keeps
right
me
there
busy
that
and out of
you said.
trouble.
That's great. That's great. So where are you originally from?
Well, I was born in Sarasota, Florida, but I spent pretty much half my time in the United States in the Chicago area. I went to school there and worked there for quite a while. And then the later half in California, like in Napa, Sonoma area.
Mm. You're doing that lawyer work.
Well, I was doing the lawyer stuff in Chicago, and then I had a restaurant in California. I feel like
Mm.
I'm on the path of living 9 lives, and I'm about on my fifth or sixth. So
Mm.
lots of different things. So, I love the concept of neuroplasticity, always learning new things, adapting, etc. So I think I
Mhm.
finally found my authentic self with the writing and with the coaching. And, my dream actually is to work for a charity, as well as to start a not-for-profit for children teaching emotional regulation and resilience, because I think that those are skills that can serve everyone, and a lot of us are missing that. And so, based on my experiences, I would like to, equip children with that skill set that would have been transformative for me if I had learned that earlier in life, as opposed
Mm.
to, so much later in life.
That's beautiful. It seems like you've found your calling.
Yes, I say, to describe myself, I say that I've lived, I've loved, I've always been full of zest and full of life, but for the most part, I was always living for other people's dreams, subjugating myself,
Mm. Mhm.
focused on loving others as opposed to self-love. And so I'm at a more authentic place in my life, much more happier, much more harmonious, much
Mm.
healthier for
Mm.
following my heart.
Mm. That's great. That's great. And wow, there's so much there. And I love your energy, by the way, right? Because
Well, thank
I
you. You
meet
too.
many thank you. I meet many people and I'm an extrovert. I enjoy being like that, right? And I'm from Brooklyn. So there's a Brooklyn accent, by the way, right? But in the tri-state New York area, and even here, because we're very close to Manhattan, um, people are just cold, man. Like I see you every day. You don't say hi to me. Like, what if you needed me? You don't. Oh, this is crazy.
And I'm glad that you distinguish, Brooklyn versus Manhattan, because I traveled for work as a corporate lawyer a lot to Manhattan, and I was like, oh, it's just not warm and friendly to me. Like, being Chicago in the Midwest or California and outdoors and whatnot. And,
Mhm.
it's funny because I'm actually a huge introvert, but when I'm passionate about things, that's the natural energy. And then also there's the co-regulation and the mirror neurons. People say misery loves company. I like to say happiness loves company. So if you're surrounded by good energy, you're
Mhm.
likely to be exchanging that, which is part of what I do with the resilience coaching, because heart math recognizes that we are energy and we're exchanging energetic fields. That's why like
Mhm.
little kids and puppies might gravitate to someone, whereas other people, other people they won't so much because they can read us so well.
Right. This is true. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you spoke earlier about the lifestyle that you're living now, like this high energetic, clean, clarity type of thing. I can't imagine that you were always like that with all of that background. So please tell us how it
It's
was
very
before and
true.
how you've got into it now.
So again, by trade and by education, I was a corporate lawyer, and I did that for almost a couple of decades. And that time of my life was also synonymous with my first husband, and he was always focused on money and materialism, where I was focused on, instead of collecting money, collecting experiences, making memories, etc. And I'd always wanted to work for charity. I wanted to have children. None of that stuff resonated with him. And unfortunately, I followed his lead and subjugated myself. So I finally got up the courage to separate from him. And he responded by trying to kill me, not because he didn't want to be separated from me, but because he didn't want to be separated from my stream of income. And I started going to therapy. And in connection with that, I started having flashbacks about childhood abuse. And my ex-husband sought permanent alimony in our divorce, and I had a visceral reaction to it, and I said, I'm out of here. And I had been traveling to South America a lot, primarily Argentina, in connection with one of my jobs, corporate lawyer for mergers and acquisitions. And I had fallen in love with the country and the culture, and so initially I moved there. And I started pursuing the things that matter to me, traveling and natural health, which were my passions, which I had been kind of dabbling in, but basically suppressing, with my people pleasing persona to a horrible degree. And then I eventually ended up traveling to the Mediterranean, just fell in love with the culture. And I've been here, more or less for the past couple of decades. And I started writing. I got a master's in natural health and fitness and nutrition certificates. And I started writing again as an introvert. Like I wanted to preach what I was practicing through written words, kind of like behind the scenes. So I was doing that, and I was writing about holistic wellness. I want to make holistic wellness accessible to everyone, and I call my philosophy KISS, as in keep it simple, sweetheart. I think we overcomplicate things, and I want to go back to the basics. So I was writing those books, and I felt really hypocritical because I realized that I had the overhang of those traumas that I hadn't really resolved. I went to a couple of therapy sessions. I did craniosacral therapy, which was amazing. But I thought, okay, check, I'm good. And I couldn't keep kidding myself. I was almost kind of like biding time. I didn't have that full appreciation and zest for life. I was worried that no one would want to read, what I had to write, what I had to say. So I pivoted to focusing on my healing. And an integral part of that was writing a memoir, Roar, Prime for Peace, which is an uplifting memoir about overcoming those various traumas. And
Mm.
my aha moment for healing was realizing, because I really delved into research. I mean, it was all self-healing and holistic healing. And there's so many resources out there these days, which is phenomenal, for free. So if you really apply yourself, you can learn so much and internalize it, because we are our own best healers, at the end of the day. So I realized that the subconscious is basically running the show for like 95% of our thoughts, our beliefs, our behaviors. And so I say that writing War, saved my life figuratively, if not literally. I attempted suicide a couple of times. There's a reason I believe that I'm still here, between my husband trying to kill me and other abusive relationships, et cetera. And I was in a pattern of these relationships. And before I really started the deep self introspection, even when my husband tried to kill me, I was like,
Mm.
stuff happens, c'est la vie. And I only went to therapy because my best friends, who have always been my earth angels, insisted that I appreciate the gravity of what had just happened. And so I started turning inwards, because I was realizing that the patterns of relationships that I was having, the behaviors, the numbing, reckless behaviors I was engaging in, I was the common denominator in those bad relationships. So I didn't want to blame anybody else for it. I wanted to own accountability for my own healing, which is what we need to do, in my opinion, to truly heal. So I started turning inwards, and with a lot of introspection. And in my case, I had a lot of clarity about what my issues were. And since childhood, I had basically been allowing myself to be treated as a means to an end. Um, and so I need to understand what I need to target to work on. And then once I understood that, the healing process went fairly quickly, fairly easily. It's an ongoing process. But I think that a lot of us might have puzzling behaviors, to others certainly, but as well as to ourselves. And so I had to realize what were my negative underlying limiting beliefs that were limiting my potential. I was always happy and I was always resilient. I was always optimistic, but I knew it wasn't quite me. It wasn't authentic. I wasn't living the fullest life that I could. And so I always say that my husband trying to kill me is what actually catapulted me to truly living. I no longer try to say things happened to me, but they happened for me. And if you can take the lessons from those experiences, your life can be that much better. I also like to say, like, I got my karma out of the way, like the first half of my life, to where the rest of my life is going to be the best of my life.
Mm, that's amazing. Wow, that's truly, truly remarkable. It makes me think of Bruce Lipton, right? He's big on that.
Yes.
If you know him, right, on about the
Yes.
subconscious. I learned from him that, that subconscious is like a record that's playing in the background, but it's been playing there for so long, you don't even hear it anymore. But the key is to
Right.
get to that record, get to it, and do the remix on it.
Right. Because, we might be doing things and we're like, why am I doing this? It's not rational behavior. And it's because when we're stuck in survival mode, that's not rational. That's primal. That is only to make sure we survive. Our brains love familiar.
Right.
We repeat so many patterns from childhood because our brains love familiar. Like I was with, like, pretty much psychotically jealous boyfriends. And
Mm,
sometimes things that people outsiders see as red flags, if you've had traumas, you can see those as green flags. I was
mm,
taught that extreme jealousy meant
mm,
love, so
mm,
I'm like, oh, someone's really jealous, then they love me. No,
mm.
that's not the way it worked. And it
It's the-
none of it ended well. But
mm,
if you don't recognize that and it's familiar to you, you kind of gravitate towards it. And
mm,
if you don't, for the longest time, I repressed and I suppressed my traumas because I thought that everyone kept telling me to sit with my pain. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense to
mm,
me. I'm out of here. And I knew that
mm,
just by changing scenery, I couldn't escape that, but I didn't know what to do. It's not like, with grief, you have like a certain set process of, the anger and acceptance and, the various steps. I'm like, what do I do with this trauma? And so the first thing was, again, recognizing the subconscious and then appreciating how I could change those beliefs because, I think it was Henry Ford who said, if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you
mm,
can't. And I
mm,
used to think that things like affirmations were like woo woo. And then once
mm,
I understood the subconscious, I understood it better. But you still need to, you can say those things from here till kingdom come. I'm worthy, I'm loved, I'm enough. If you're not feeling it, if it's just
mm,
in your head and it's stopping
mm,
at your brainstem, if you're not feeling it, you're not going to get there. And so,
mhm,
like, I used things like, some people do meditation. I found hypnotherapy, which I also used to think like, what I thought was a stage act. I use that to access my subconscious. And in my book, Mastering the Art of Stress, I give like 52 very simple, accessible, very inexpensive, if not free, recommendations for managing stress. And I had more than that. And I was trying to cut it down. And one of the first things that went was hypnotherapy because I'm like, oh, people are just going to discount it. But now that I appreciate that it's the way to access your subconscious, I became certified in hypnotherapy and I'm
mm,
doing self hypnosis because
mm,
there are fortunately plenty of free resources online, for hypnosis. But some of
mhm,
those things, since they're cookie cutter, they were actually triggering me because of my unique circumstances. So I started
mm,
creating my own scripts. And so I use
mm,
self hypnosis to target the things that I need to target to where I
mm,
can really
mm.
embody those new beliefs and change them, not just say them without
Right,
feeling it.
right. Of course, of course. It's that little story that we tell ourselves, right? Oh, I'm just like that. That's just the way I am, and that's just the
Yeah.
way life is. Like, what? Nah, you're not
Yeah.
just
I
like
was the
that.
biggest say la
You,
vie. I was just like, say la vie,
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
happens.
We can get out of that for sure. I was looking for the art of stress. Are you guys distributing it through Amazon?
Yes, it's mastering the art of stress. And
Oh,
actually,
mastering.
mastering the art of stress. And I have it's basically the same book, but I also did release yourself in 3 parts. And release yourself part 1 is free on all retailers other than Amazon because they make you charge 99 cents. But release yourself 1 actually is kind of trying to sound the alarm bell about chronic stress because I
Mm,
go I go beyond trauma. I mean, I think anyone who really has had a lot of trauma has chronic stress, but you can have chronic stress without trauma. So I've tried to broaden what I'm trying to do. And I think that people really need to understand just how catastrophic chronic stress is. And we need to stop being dismissive of it.
mm,
Chronic stress, chronic sleep deprivation. Chronic stress accounts for like 85% of doctor's visits. And
mm,
yet, if you go to the doctor, you're given, maybe it's manifesting as digestive disorder or anxiety.
mm,
So maybe you get,
mm,
Xanax and something for your
mm,
stomach, and they're not
mm,
targeting what the source of it is. So there are so
mm,
many things that we can do. And I think everyone could benefit from learning emotional regulation, learning resilience. And again, I did everything myself and for free. Like I bought, maybe a couple of books, but
mm,
there's so much information out there. And
mhm,
then
mhm,
the big thing that I did was I realized that throughout my life that I was always happy, resilient, and optimistic despite these traumatic dark moments. And
mm,
my healing took a back step because I wrote my books under a pen name to protect my family, and they found out and basically disowned me, and I had a horrible relationship end all at the same time, and my world felt like it was crashing in. And I'm like, I can't keep preaching this stuff, I'm like on this precipice of going down this abyss. So I really
mm,
applied myself and I delved further and I started meditating more and doing things like that. And then I came across heart coherence, which I realized I had basically been intuitively doing all my life, like this sincere, heartfelt gratitude ritual that I had always done. And
mm,
so once I came across that and understood the scientific basis and validity of what I was doing, I got certified in it because I realized that had I actually known that years earlier, it could have helped me a lot. And so it's
mhm,
really near and dear to my heart to help other
mhm.
people so that they don't take as long as I did to get to the point where I'm at.
You spoke earlier about the neuroplasticity, and that's a fascinating subject on its own. But it makes me think of the that word that has now been aggressively injected into our conversation, which is the epigenetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
People
Mm-hmm.
thought for a long time that's just the way you are. You cannot change. No, that's you, your character, like, or whatever. But now they know, which that's what the ancients that were telling us, from way back. But they don't listen
Full
to it because they
circle.
were savages. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they didn't know what they were talking about, right? But the epigenetics, where you can actually change yourself, like, I mean, like on a DNA level, like heal your physical body and your brain and your lifestyle. Like, you could just change. You could change your environment. You could change your relationships. You could change your job. You could just do whatever
So
it is that you want.
empowering, so
Mhm,
liberating. We used to
mhm,
think that, yeah, we were just stuck and, our nerve cells, brain cells would die and we couldn't change them. We couldn't generate
mhm,
new ones. And yeah, that's my whole philosophy too, back to basics. I mean, so many
mhm.
people, especially in the United States, seem to want simple solutions, but they're overcomplicating it in so many ways instead of just
Yeah.
going back to the fundamentals. And,
Yeah. Mhm.
this stuff isn't it's not new, whether it's
Mm.
Ayurvedic or Indian, Native
Yep.
American,
Yep.
whatever.
Mhm.
They have
Mhm.
so much traditional Chinese medicine. These things have,
Mhm. Mhm.
centuries and thousands of
Yeah.
years of
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
proof, and yet
Yeah.
we're looking for something new. Like the
Yeah.
Mediterranean diet, people are like looking for something new. Like what?
Mm.
Let's go
Yeah.
with what works,
Right.
and what
Yeah.
works for you. Like be your own personal advocate. Take responsibility. Do not abdicate your mental or your physical health to anybody else. It's not going to go
Right.
well.
Yeah, yeah. It makes me think of yoga, right? I try to get some yoga in, like 20 minutes at least. It just changes my whole day. Like, I try to get it in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. That's why I'm up at 4 o'clock every day in the morning. I have two young
Yes.
kids, so like once they're up, like that's it. It's like it's all about them. But it's my time, man. I'm up at 4. I go running and work out, and I do what I want. And the yoga, I tell a lot of young men too, like, hey, man, introduce yourself to it. This is a practice that has
Hmm.
been going on for thousands of years.
Right. Or
Thousands. It's
Tai
been
Chi
recorded for
or
three.
Qigong.
Oh my God, yeah. So something that's been around for that long, we should pay attention to it.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's funny. I think people, to my whole people pleasing persona, which now, nauseates me. I mean, it's like objectively ludicrous. It's objectively ludicrous. And,
Mm,
again, I was subjugating myself to individual people who were fully capable of taking care of themselves. And instead of doing something like I wanted to work for a charity and, work for children's causes, which could help a whole lot more people.
mm,
I mean, my people pleasing was just, beyond idiotic.
mm,
And I think that so many times people think of self care as selfish, and, self care is health care. And,
mm,
I
mm,
have limitless love. I can love myself and I can love other people. It doesn't mean
mhm.
you're not being compassionate and not helping advance. And
No,
to the
yeah,
extent you're living your happiest, most authentic life and taking
yeah,
care of yourself, that's going to
yeah,
resonate with everyone else. You set the example for your
exactly.
children,
You're helping the collective. It's not, it's just for
Yes.
you, but it's for everyone. It's for the
Right,
village.
everyone benefits. Exactly, exactly,
Yeah,
like tribes, like I think things we should go back to tribes.
exactly, exactly. Yeah. Tell me about Kiss.
So again, it's called Keep It Simple, Sweetheart. And when I was researching, so I was doing the Mediterranean holistic wellness. And when I was researching for my own healing and appreciating the extensive ravages of chronic stress, and, as a corporate lawyer, also I had that occupational chronic stress, burning the candle at both ends, et cetera, not sleeping and
Mm,
whatnot. And I started appreciating how that is impacting us in so many different aspects of life. And we have a huge weight epidemic in the world. It's called globesity. And I was getting really tired of hearing and seeing on social media, which to me isn't, so social. A lot of times it's more of a disconnect.
mm,
The simple mantra of eat less, move more. Yes, you have to take in less calories than you burn. But to me, if someone is struggling to lose weight, they're probably doing their darndest. A lot of people are starving themselves. And so I think that we don't pay attention enough to like the psychological reasons as to why we're not doing the things. I was doing a lot of things that I knew weren't rational, that I knew weren't good for me. Why do we do those things? I think there's an emotional underlying psychological reason if that's the case. If we're not taking the rational path, um, so that just made me want to have a more compassionate approach to something like weight loss. And I actually resisted doing a weight loss book at first, but the way I try to couch it is a healthy lifestyle. If we live a healthy lifestyle, the side effect is a healthy weight. Whereas if people are fixated on losing weight, oftentimes they're actually harming their long term health. And so I wanted to do a more compassionate, keep it simple. There are things that we can do daily. And then the mastering the art of the stress was the same, just realizing just how devastating stress is to us. I was misdiagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, with multiple sclerosis. I was told that I needed back surgery. I was told I had esophagitis, and it was all psychosomatic. And I think people have a visceral negative reaction to psychosomatic. I had all those symptoms. I ended up in the emergency room a number of times. I was told I was having many strokes. I had, food caught in my throat. I almost choked to death a number of times. And psychosomatic isn't unreal. It's just that the source is, in your mind. And so if everyone's just treating the body with different drugs, which is only exacerbating the problem and not addressing the underlying issue. And then I did another one on brain health, and I'm working on a Mediterranean one because I think the Mediterranean diet gets so much recognition, as it should, for
mm,
being, one of the healthiest diets in the world. And
mm,
I really am on a mission to have people stop dieting and start nourishing. But it's not just the diet, it's the overall lifestyle. And I've
mm,
been blessed to be the living embodiment of it for the past couple of decades. And I just
mm,
I just perceive things so differently. The mentality between the United States, for instance, and places that I'm living, I can feel the stress in the United States. I can feel the divisiveness. Um, Whereas there are so many different aspects beyond diet that I think that people, no matter where they're living, can incorporate. And again, it's kind of all going back to the basics and simple. And so, keep it simple, sweetheart, is just my way of saying, let's have holistic wellness accessible to everyone. And that's the thing that really resonates with me with heart coherence, because we all have a heart, so it's an accessible modality. And I'm really struck by, it's kind of like if the heart is the problem in terms of if we don't have heart coherence, the heart is also the solution. Cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of men in America, of women in America, of throughout the world. And I don't think it's getting and it's health awareness. I mean, Heart Health Awareness Month now. And the beauty is that 90% of cardiovascular disease is preventable. Cardiovascular disease isn't just the heart, it's strokes, it's dementia, it's kidney disease. Even like better cardiovascular health is related to a decreased risk of cancer. So there are simple lifestyle factors that we can all be engaging in every day. And pretty much all those lifestyle factors that'll get you the healthy weight, that'll get you a healthy cardiovascular system, get you a healthy nervous system. They're all the same, so it's not mystical to me, and it's not difficult. And so I really do hope that people just kind of go back to basics and don't get overwhelmed and confused by the flood of information that's out there.
The holistic healthy lifestyle is one of those things. It has that stigma and comes with some baggage. You think like it's some guru sitting in a cave somewhere meditating for 30 hours a day. So I try to tell people it's just not like that. It's a lifestyle, right? It's not a diet. It has nothing to do with diet. No, it's lifestyle.
Oh gosh.
It's like, do you get up? What do you do in the morning? What are you doing? Like, I get up, I make my bed. Like, that's the first task of the day, and then I drink
set the tone.
16 ounces of room temperature water with Celtic sea salt and lemon, right? It alkalines my body. It's not coffee, with fried bacon and eggs. No, none of that, just, pace it out and try to live that
really,
lifestyle.
It's the confluence of lifestyle factors. And I think that people, it's funny because with holistic health, it's just really honoring your body and recognizing the interconnectedness of our, mind, body, and spirit. And to treat things disparately just does not make any sense. And people are so focused on weight loss that they do crazy things. I get crazy with diets because, people are fearful of food. They're food phobic. And the worst thing they can do is stress about your food, every time you're eating.
Right.
And people, to me, macronutrients are by definition those things that we need in relatively large quantities. And we're so focused on macronutrients, and so many people are excluding groups that by definition, they're not getting the micronutrients that come with those macronutrients that they're excluding. And, like the vitamins and minerals, I have a book called Fed Up, Why Can't I Lose Weight? Vitamin and mineral deficiencies can create, challenges with weight loss. And if you're not eating a diverse, balanced diet, you're not going to be having optimal health, And like when you said cavemen, it's funny because people want to go back to supposedly what cavemen ate. And, frankly, they didn't have choices. They ate whatever was available. I don't want to emulate my diet. They weren't doing studies saying, oh, this is what makes the most sense. They didn't live very long. And, people focus on the diet. How about how much they were moving? I mean, that was probably the start of HIIT, high intensity interval training, running away from a dinosaur to live. So people aren't like modeling their exercise behavior because so many people are sedentary, but they want to say like, what were cavemen eating? And to me, it really has no relevance to me.
Right. I don't know if you know this, but humans are the only primates that has back issues. We're the only primates that have back issues. Other primates, no. Why? Probably because we're sitting in chairs all day. We're not swinging from trees, and we're not exercising and moving all day. Like we should be.
Yeah, I mean, our bodies were meant to move. And the other thing too is that we store trauma in our bodies, like especially like in the hips. When I said that I was told I needed back surgery, that was my trauma stored. And you think about like if an animal is hurt, like they shake. And we're all like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, the animal's not okay. The animal knows what it's doing. It's shaking it off.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
processing that, stress response to get rid of it
For
and not get
sure.
stuck in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
We are.
interesting.
We
I
are
didn't know
so.
that tidbit that you
Yeah.
just shared.
We're so disconnected from things. Like we spoke offline about the sun coming in and that pure vitamin D. Like people are just, we're so busy. We're running, and now with
Oh
the
my gosh.
phones, we're like,
Yes.
you see people, they're down here. Like, before where I came from, women were with their purses holding, like you couldn't snatch their purse. You couldn't. Now you could take the shoes off their feet and their earrings. They wouldn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Or people are falling in holes. People are falling in
Yeah.
pinholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're just
And
so
it's funny
disconnected.
because, things that we think we're doing, we get afraid of the sun. So yeah,
Mhm.
and we get afraid of the sun,
Right.
so people aren't getting their vitamin D, which impacts so many things, so many things mentally
Mhm.
and physically. Um,
Mhm.
People are avoiding dairy and then they're probably not getting, probiotics. Like I drink kefir every day. It's
Mhm.
just
Mhm. Mhm.
there's just so much noise out there and people really
Mhm.
need to abdicate for them and they need to take responsibility for themselves and not outsource it because no one knows you better.
Mhm.
If I
Mhm.
hear, especially if there are influencers out there who have, it's like the people who I see so many women who say that plants are toxic to us and yet they clearly have had so much Botox. They're injecting botulism in their face, which is in their brain, and telling me not to eat broccoli. I'm
Right.
like, that just doesn't make sense. People need to use their common sense and to each his or her
Mhm.
own, whatever works for
Mhm.
them. But
Right.
I'm like, what? Like, why would I listen to somebody?
Right.
And there are plenty of good influencers out there with who provide references.
For sure, for sure. And you have to, like you said, whatever speaks to you and stuff like that. And do your research too. We always tell people, don't believe me. I'm telling you, but don't believe me. Go do your research.
Right,
Find out for yourself.
right,
Like that.
right,
Well, why don't you tell me a little bit
right. I
about
know. I
your
like that's what I hope to do. I hope to peak.
I know, I'm sorry, there's a little lag,
I'm sorry, there
right?
was a delay.
Mhm. Okay,
I,
so
I was just
the-
saying that I hope to pique people's interest and they can delve into things.
right, of course. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what do you eat? Your lifestyle in your food. You know, let's see. Yeah.
So I eat a Mediterranean, diet. And I've never counted calories. I've never counted steps.
Mhm.
To me, that stuff sounds miserable. Um, I get up out of bed, I make my bed just like you said. I start doing jumping jacks. I'm very much into resistance training. I
Mhm.
travel a lot. I'm kind of like a world nomad, so I love free weights, and I don't have them, so I literally just use water bottles, and I do more reps. So I do that kind of stuff. I do a combination of Pilates and yoga poses. I try to get outside to get some sun as early as possible. Um, I I generally eat 2 meals a day, but I'm like pretty much eating all the time. I'm just kind of like snacking throughout. I love to
Grazing.
be it. Yeah, I graze a lot. I listen to my body. I eat a diversity in my diet, which is really important, for gut health, for variety, for interest. I love being outside. I love being in nature. I take a walk for at least an hour a day. I'm literally 20 minutes from the Mediterranean Sea. That has been transformative to me. I like to go stand, in the sea for half an hour a day. It's magnesium rich. I'm grounding with the earth. Um, I do different sort of meditative practices. I do heart coherence. But
Mhm.
it's all very simple stuff. I love learning new things every day. I spend time. I usually get up in the morning and something new is in my head. I'm always thinking, so I start researching something else.
Mhm.
So I have
Mhm.
certain goals, but I'm always going in a million directions because something new piques my interest, which I
Mhm.
love because, I'm constantly learning and doing new things. And, again,
Mhm.
our brains like familiar, and I've learned to embrace getting comfortable in the uncomfortable because growth doesn't happen in the familiar, which is where our
Mhm.
brains kind of want to keep us stuck. But,
Right.
make your new normal happy, make your new normal learning. Um,
Right.
So yeah,
Tell us, tell
it's a pretty
us,
simple life. I really enjoy simple pleasures.
tell us about what does a Mediterranean diet look like?
So it's largely it's basically I eat a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of dried fruit. I've never been a real big person on fruit. So whole grains, I eat whole grains regularly, dried fruit, a lot of vegetables, lean protein. I'm blessed to have a lot of seafood available. I actually started eating, as an American, when you get a Caesar salad and you have the anchovy and you're like, oh my God, get that away from me. And now like I eat that regularly. It's kind of like, if you like shallow fried, it's like seafood fries. It's very
Right?
tasty. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great source of protein. It's a great source of omega 3s. It's very
Omega 3.
cheap. It's high in selenium, so it's heart healthy, it's anti-inflammatory, and that's
Mm,
one of the things that I love doing, traveling around, different places, because I used to live in South America. I've lived throughout, Western Europe. I live in Turkey. I've traveled in, Thailand and Bali, etc. And I
mm,
love, love, love diving into a culture through their cuisine. And that's a lot of what I enjoy writing about too, a real immersive experience in my novel series, about the different food and, the day-to-day simple
mm,
pleasures, and the
mm,
rituals of, for instance, in Italy, taking a stroll, pre-dinner or post-dinner. There's like a real connection of people, or even like the l'aperitivo, where people get together to have a drink, and it's not like in the United States where you're just slamming drinks at happy hour. Like, you might have one drink, but it's a social connection. Or the cafe culture, people aren't running into their corner, big chain coffee, place, and getting a
mhm,
caramel whatever. It's
mhm,
just
mhm,
you know coffee or tea, where the cafes here are just full all day. It's just people getting together and connecting, and that's something that I think, I grew up and, we ate dinner together, and people weren't on devices, and
mhm, mhm,
it's just a more connected way. Or even here, like, there's multi-generational support. Like, a lot of people will live with multi generations in one house, like the grandkids, the
mhm,
parents, and the grandparents. Whereas in the United
mhm,
States,
mhm.
we're like kicking kids out of the house as soon as we can, and then
Yeah,
start
yeah.
sending the parents to nursing homes. It's just a
Yep.
different.
Mm.
It's just
It
different.
is. My wife, she's from the Dominican Republic, and
Mhm.
they come from that particular lifestyle. Like her family, the family values are like super strong, super, super strong. Like any little thing happens and they show up, like, 20 or
Yeah,
30 of them. And then like if it's a gathering for whatever event, oh man, they have to rent the hall. Like they
yeah,
like but I
yeah.
come from
You're
a
always
family
welcome in
here.
anyone's home.
I
Hmm.
come from a family here in the US, like you spoke about, and very, very like limited in that area. And they were
Hmm.
big on like they were always big on like who's gonna be there? Oh, her? Oh no, no, no. I'm not going. I'm not going to the Christmas party that only happens once a year where you gather with your family because she's gonna be there. Like just
Yeah.
cold, terrible,
It's
terrible.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I've also noticed that too. Like, it's almost like there are so many occasions for, festivals. Like in Turkey, there's so many holidays that are centered around kids and fitness and sports. And, in the United States, we have like our big holidays. And like, to me, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, but Thanksgiving should be every day, not
Yeah.
just once a
Yeah.
year, and not just
Yeah.
about the food.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then like you spoke about the alcohol too, because that one just ravaged my family as growing up. Like the talk about trauma. Oh my God, we could do another podcast on that one. But it was always that alcohol that was there that took the place of just being normal, having a happy time, and just enjoying family. It just destroyed my family in the U.S. here.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I that's one of the reasons why I'm really so adamant about resolving chronic stress and unresolved traumas, because those manifest in different ways, including smoking, excess alcohol, eating disorders, eating too much, and if we're not addressing the underlying psychological reasons for that, it's not going to get better. I've been there with, numbing behaviors, reckless behaviors, like you don't want to feel pain, and so you're trying to avoid it. And there's so many things that are symptoms. Like, I always had horrible dreams, and I never even called them nightmares, because I knew that they were trying to tell me something. chronic
Mm.
stress, anxiety. If you're feeling anxiety, to me, that's a symptom of something. If you want to lose weight and you are emotionally eating, you can't just be told to stop eating, like you have to address the underlying cause. So,
Right. That's
different
fascinating.
habits and
That's fascinating that you mentioned about the dreams. Yeah. Can you, if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because we're fascinated
yeah.
here with dreams, and we also do dream interpretations here at OMZL.
Oh, oh, wow. Yeah.
So,
It's funny. I've always been fascinated with dreams since childhood. And one of the things that I started looking at when I was trying to heal was lucid dreaming.
mm,
And I knew that I was having recurring dreams that were trying to tell me something, that I needed to address issues that were going on. Like the
mm,
body is always going to have a way, to tell us when something needs to be addressed. I was after I'd had a couple of therapy sessions, and I was about to take a trip to Italy, and I'd booked the place, and I had signed up for Italian lessons and stuff. And every time I was trying to get up, I was practically fainting. My body was telling me to do something because I hadn't healed to the extent that I needed to. And,
mm,
these things are symptoms. And, the dreams to me were messengers trying to highlight the things that I needed to resolve. And I used to have, in high school, I would have terrible, terrible dreams, and I was put on sleeping pills, and that only made it worse, because again, it wasn't addressing the situation. Or when I after my husband tried to kill me, and I was put on different benzodiazepines, and I hated those because they were numbing the pain, but they were also numbing my happiness, etc. So, and those things, sometimes we need them for short-term measures, but it's not the solution. It's not the solution. And so the recurring dreams, for instance, I always had very violent recurring dreams, like Stephen King should be in my head to like make movies. They were just terrible and bizarre. And I'm like, why? Like, I feel completely safe. Why am I having these dreams? Well, I never processed the abuse that I experienced in my house. My husband of 15 years tried to kill me after beating me up. Like, why am I having violent dreams? Because I hadn't
right.
processed it.
Mm,
So, it's interesting how the body sends us different
mm,
signals. Like I said, when I was told I had multiple sclerosis, and again, I had all these symptoms.
mm, mm,
And,
mm,
whether it's underlying vitamin or mineral deficiencies or
mm,
stress or
mm.
whatever it is, that's not going to go away until you resolve it.
I do love your lifestyle and everything that you're doing. It makes me think about many people that I know, even loved ones and family, how the doctor comes in, tells them one thing, and then just go do that, and they do it. They take it, they do the surgery, they do the
Oh
chemo, they do
gosh.
all of that. Like, and we're over here telling them, like, you don't have to do that. Like, try some, at least just try some of these things. And
Yeah. It's like, even, I mean, simple things. I don't know if it's simple, but say things like cataracts. If someone's told that they have cataracts, they immediately go get eye surgery. Well, I don't like that, doesn't resonate with me. And
mm,
I've had blurred vision, and blurred vision actually is part of like trauma. But I can tell that if I'm not getting enough antioxidants, that's when I'm getting the blurred vision, because
mm,
of the
mm,
oxidative stress.
mm,
I've had people who are ready to get hip surgery, and then they start exercising a little. It's like, oh, miraculously, my hip's better. I mean, that
mm,
shouldn't be the go-to. And, I don't
mhm,
blame doctors. Doctors aren't
mm.
trained really, they're pretty much trained in drugs. They're not trained in nutrition
Right?
for the most part,
Yeah.
medical
They're,
doctors.
they're the new
And
drug dealers.
yeah, and we go there we want the prescription, for the easy, quick solution. We want to be told, okay, you can quickly, resolve this with this, that, or the other, while we're
Mm,
really
mm,
suppressing our body's own natural healing mechanisms instead of supporting
mm,
them. That's one of the books I'm writing too, is Hugs, Not Drugs. Even
mm,
like
mm,
natural ways to enhance our feel good neurotransmitters instead of like taking numbing pills to not feel the pain, etc.
mm,
Or
mm, mm.
anti-inflammatory things to do instead of taking NSAIDs, which I know a lot of people realize that antibiotics kill our gut microbiome, but so do
Mm,
NSAIDs, which people are
mhm.
like popping those like candy. So it's,
Mm,
there's
mhm,
so much good information out there. Again, I
mhm,
spend like so much time researching my weight loss book, Eat the Cupcake. I have like 100 pages of references in there because I really wanted to delve deep so that other people, if they don't want to, they don't have to, but those references are
mhm,
available. I really encourage
mhm,
people to,
mhm,
if something's of interest to them, to look at it, to read something, not just
mhm.
listen to social media.
Yeah, it's definitely lifestyle, and I know there's an official name for it, but basically what it's saying is that something like 96 or 97% of all sicknesses are preventable. It's lifestyle change. It's only the 3% that you can't
Yeah.
do nothing about, but the other
Yeah.
98%, it's just lifestyle choices.
Yeah, and the confluence of lifestyle factors. I mean, like, I'm certainly not pristine. No one's pristine, but as long as you're pretty much, doing everything most of the time, pretty good, you're going to be okay. And it's actually it's the easiest and most pleasurable as far as I'm concerned.
Right,
And
right.
like you said with genetics, some people might have a genetic predisposition, but it's our lifestyle that largely turns on those genes or turns them
Right.
off.
Yeah, it's like the cancer cells, right? I learned that everybody
Right,
has cancer cells,
right,
but
right,
you might not want to smoke cigarettes or
right.
some other type of lifestyle or
Yeah,
so
I mean, seriously, the fact that, cardiovascular disease is the number one killer, it accounts for like a third of the deaths globally, and that's 90% preventable. And how
mm-mm.
many people are actually taking any of those steps?
Right, right. We spoke also about one of our staples here, right? We're the OMZL Healing Sanctuary, and it's me and my wife that we run a private practice here in North Bergen, New Jersey. And my name is Omar, and her name is Aziel. So that's where the
Oh,
name come
nice.
from. Om Ziel. Yeah, yeah. It's unique. Like you could look it up. There's some variation, but there's nothing like that one. And it just came to us that way. But one of our staples is the breath work with the ice plunge. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not an easy thing, but that's the point of it. Like it's
Right.
cold outside, it's freezing, and the water is ice cold, and you're gonna get into it, and I'm gonna coach you 2 minutes through the ice water, and it's a reboot, for your operating system. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, not only does it have proven, benefits, but it's also, I think, a form of hormesis, like where you're increasing your resilience to stress by voluntarily subjecting yourself to it. Because we all have stressors, and the difference between people who are, have catastrophic results from it versus those who aren't, it's our reaction to it. So if you
Mhm,
can
mhm.
increase your tolerance to stress and make it manageable, I mean, think about like
Right.
champion athletes or first
Mhm,
responders. Those people are subjected to stress all the time, but that like
mhm, mhm,
motivates them and gets them prepared and
mhm,
focused.
mhm,
So
mhm.
stress itself isn't bad. It's the way we react to it, or when we can't turn off that chronic stress
Yeah,
response.
right. Or it's that consistent, chronic stressors like, oh, the rent, oh, the mortgage,
Right,
oh, my kids, oh, the relationship,
right.
oh, the job that sucks. Oh, I gotta go there in the morning. Like, yeah, that's the one that gets
Yeah.
you, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's if people want a positive life, and again, there are people who are in circumstances and war and violence and gangs, and I'm not talking about those people, but for most of us, we can control our thoughts, and we have like 70,000 thoughts a day, and like 70% are negative. Most of us are blessed to be able to control those. So if you want a positive life, you have to think positive thoughts. If you want a healthy
Mhm.
life, you have to have healthy lifestyle habits. I mean, it's not
Right.
mystical to me.
Right. I have a lot of people, they're on the social media and they're like, oh, did you hear what's happening over there in China? Oh my God, in India. Oh, the president, you heard what he said? And I'm like, listen, you wait a minute. You have to understand that those people that are putting that information out there, that's their job to do that.
Yeah.
That's what they're getting paid for whatever, for popularity, for endorsements, for what to sell you something,
Yeah,
whatever it
people have a
is.
negativity bias. They seek negative news. Unfortunately, it's
Yeah, the doomsday scrolling, like,
yeah,
oh my God, the world is ending. I'm like, yeah, the world is ending, and things are gonna happen. That's true. But let's not sit around staring at it. No, no, I
right.
say while we're here, let's live it up, man. Let's live it,
Yeah, it's
you
like
know?
Buddhism. I mean, it's like pain to me. Pain, suffering. We have things that happen, but you don't have to continue to suffer with it. That's not the inevitable part. And
Right.
like we have choices to make, and again, if you want to be happy, you kind of have to choose that to start with. You really do. You have
Right.
to make a conscious effort to do that.
Yeah, the Buddhism, it makes me think of Pema Chodron, right?
Hmm.
She's a great author and all. She's been through some rough stuff too, right? Relationships and all that. But she said the only way through pain is going through it, not around it
Yes.
or under
Yes.
it. No, you got to go through it. You got to.
Which is so true. I mean, I'm definitely a living example of it because that's how I've been living my life. And, it doesn't go away. It was, it
Mhm.
was always there. So
Right.
you do have to confront it. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah.
You do have to, you have to get to the other side. And again, there are so many resources and, there are different philosophical movements or inspirational people like Helen Keller, Nelson Mandela, and the Dalai Lama, stuff that I like to read. I'm like, oh, these people, like alchemists, turning lead into gold. These people went
Mhm.
through horrific circumstances and
Mhm.
they come out the other
Mhm.
side better for it, or like
Yeah. Yeah.
Nietzsche's Ubermensch. There are a lot of, there's so many resources out there. If
Mhm.
someone
Mhm.
doesn't like something about their life or their behavior or their habits or whatever, there's a lot of
Mhm. Mhm.
inspiration and a lot of know-how. um, and I would encourage people to start reading again. Don't just
Mhm.
blindly
Mhm.
listen to social
Mhm.
media influencers who have, a lot of them have no credentials or no relevant
Mm.
experience.
Right.
Don't follow that herd mentality. Ordinary, so taken. Go for extraordinary.
Right, of course. So we're coming up close to the hour. If somebody wants to reach out to you and find you, I could see, and I've been putting it on the ticker there that
Oh, thank
your
you. Yeah,
books
I see
are
that.
on Amazon. Yeah, Sophia
Oh,
M.
thanks.
Ellen. Of course, you have. I could see quite a number of books, and we encourage that here at OMZL. That we're very big on books. You
I
know,
love that.
very
I mean,
big.
but yeah, books
Yeah.
have changed my life, and it's also escapism. Books have so much to offer.
Yeah.
And my website is mediterraneanme.org. That would be the best way to get a hold of me. But I do appreciate the scrolling there. And I hope to
Mediterranean
come
me.
come visit you there someday.
Of course, if you're ever here by, New York City, we host people. We've been doing short-term rentals here at the sanctuary,
Oh wow.
because
Oh
we've
wow.
dedicated. I'm telling, listen, sister, it's been quite a journey. It really has. Like we were renting, space here. We turned our two-family home into the sanctuary that it already is, right?
Oh
So
cool.
once the tenants moved out downstairs, I got that phone call again, right, from the universe or wherever, telling me, this is what we want you to do. And we were like, okay, we don't have to do it because humans have free will, but we decided to dedicate the space. So we do breath work, we do ice plunge, we do different types of ceremonies, gatherings, live music, food, alkaline food, and all this stuff.
Yeah, it seems like you
But
have a
in
huge turnout too, I've seen.
Yeah, thank you. And then in the interim, we've started renting the space, and it's been such a blessing. People come from all over the
Oh, I
world.
love that.
France, Germany, Korea, Japan, like from
Amazing.
South America. Yeah. We get to meet them and talk, and oh my God, we're still in service.
Oh, I
So
love
we
that.
love it.
I will say that I can do the ice plunge in summer.
Okay, all right. I'll hold you to
Sign me
that.
up for
I'll
that.
hold you. Well,
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
It
Thank
was
you
a
so
pleasure
much.
speaking with you.
Oh, my pleasure too, man. Love your energy, and like I'm just trying to keep up with you and stuff.
Sorry, I get a little animated.
Yep, that's okay. That's good. Keep it up. Keep that energy up, man. Thank you so much for being
Thank
with
you.
us and taking the time out.
My
So,
pleasure. Thank
yeah.
you.
All
See you
right.
soon. Bye
Peace and
bye.
love. Bye.
Peace and love. Bye bye.
The stage. There you have it, guys. The art of rising. Man, that was great. That was great. Sophia, what energy that she has, man. So look her up when you can. We'll leave some of that information down below, and stay tuned for